9/11, when that happened, I realized I did not understand why it happened. What would drive people to do this? What's the cause of this? Completely changed my life. I didn't want to ever be caught without understanding why something was happening, if I could understand it.
I can't speak to that, obviously, but if there's one thing that I could say that really brought me to where I am now, would probably be the beginning of the most recent conflict in Israel-Gaza. Something felt wrong, and I didn't understand enough. And I wanted to learn more. And I think that has helped me, shaped rather, one of the core philosophy of mine, that is I need to be able to learn more.
I mean, they say that October 7th is today's 9/11.
Yes.
I'm your host, Vicky Diaz Camacho. This space brings together voices across generations to engage in honest conversations about democracy, identity, and the future we are building together. Let's dive in. If you will, please. Debi, do you want to start us off?
Born a Canadian, moved to the United States. I was a lawyer. I left law to go to the nonprofit sector.
Whoa.
I managed nonprofits. I then went to the funder side of things. And now I put all that stuff together and I work with some nonprofits very deeply to help them do better.
And you, Jonah?
My name is Jonah. I am a sophomore at the George Washington University. I am one of the board members at my club, Bridge GW, which is a chapter of Bridge USA, the national organization. We want to try and get people to talk to each other. That's pretty much the gist. I want to major in sociology, and that's about it.
What is your life experience like, and how has that informed your work?
So I am famously among my friends, known as an independent misfit.
Ooh.
Meaning that I think I have looked at a lot of different things and tried to learn for myself as much as possible. And I don't really fit into any kind of box or identity. So I like to think of it as trying to find the best from people wherever I meet them and incorporating that into my life. And so
cool.
Independent Misfit has really worked as a good label for me.
I like that.
Great label. I might have to pick that up myself. But no, I value critical thinking. In short, the school that I went to taught me very, very well, primary education, that is. And in short, I learned that nothing that I think will ever be the right way. But at the end of the day, if I follow my moral compass, I'll probably end up somewhere where I want to be.
When I say civic engagement, what 3 words or feelings come to mind and why?
Yeah, sure. First thing that comes to mind is empathy. Not just like the surface level, like I get where you're coming from, but like really, and that's where my interest in sociology comes in. I think that really understanding where people come from, why they feel the way they do, charting the thought process of any given opinion is going to be the best way to understand where they're coming from and then talk about it. I feel like that's something that we don't really do very much these days. That's just one thing. I think compassion is another. I think that those two are connected, obviously. If you don't want to learn, then you're not going to get anything that you want out of it.
I think it's probably individual, community, and country.
Oh.
Because we are, a country made up of individual people who are very different, who all want to pursue life in the best way possible for them.
Yeah.
And the United States is a place where you can do that, right? So, or we want it to be a place where you can do that. So country made up of individuals who live in communities. And I think that engagement from a civic standpoint is individuals engaging with their communities, and communities engaging with the country. So I see relationships between those 3.
I know this last one will be very similar, but I think respect at the end of the day is going to be something that will always work, because I found personally, and also I've spoken to people, that when you try and enter an argument to win, you already lost. Because you see your interlocutor as something that isn't, you don't hold them to the same standard as your own opinions. And I think that being able to respect the humanity of said interlocutor is going to be, like I said, the best way to have a productive conversation.
So starting with good faith and understanding the micro and the macro.
Good faith is a good way to put it.
So I think that there's this perception that newer generations might be less inclined to show up, be present for the issues they care about. But then, the older generations might be a little bit more resistant to change. I'm just curious about your perceptions.
In my little understanding about psychology, yes, obviously older generations will have a harder time literally changing their opinions. And when it's been ingrained in you, whatever that is, for decades, you're not going to want to change. And that's fair. But I think that when it comes to the younger generation, people are passionate, But I think that only the loudest voices are the ones that get heard, and I don't think they represent the majority of people my age, with the understanding that there are forces on both sides of the aisle that are trying to sway public opinion in ways that I find to be concerning.
Okay.
Because they don't foster critical thinking. They only tell you what to think, not how.
I think I always sort of like partly rebel against generalizations.
Yes.
So
Please do.
I love it. Please.
So I think with younger people, I mean, how are we judging whether they are more involved or not?
Right.
I think technology has changed how we engage. COVID changed the way we engage. So I don't know that we can judge just blanket whether younger people are less engaged or more engaged. Engagement might look different today. And then for older people, I see quite a range, among my friends. I think there are some things where experience teaches you and you learn from those experiences and carry that forward. Yeah. I think there are some people who continue to learn, and there are some people who maybe close themselves off to learning.
Sure.
But I know plenty of older people who are still learning, and I think when you combine it with experience, the way they incorporate that learning just looks different than somebody who's younger. So put it like...
I like that.
Yeah, that's maybe not so clean.
It's not. Nothing is, right? And how do you, I think, activate your curiosity in your everyday life? I would love to know that.
Sure.
I think it starts with knowing that you don't know everything. I mean, that is the first thing. I mean, you're never going to know everything, right? So I think also too, I took a course in college that kind of stuck with me. And one of the things that the professor had us do over and over and over again was to try to identify what was the best reason for something, the best argument for something, especially when you didn't disagree with it. Not what's the weakest argument, what is the best, strongest, more plausible argument, because the people who hold those views are intelligent, smart, and wonderful, right? So that just stuck with me as a methodology.
Yeah.
And it just forces you to be curious. To do that, you have to be curious.
Right.
Since I was very, very young, I was always very curious about the world around me. And I think that now I have more tools to do that, to explore whatever it is I want to explore. And that world is expanding for me, and I love it. But something that I want to try and do is try and figure out ways to make other people curious, spark the innate, very human curiosity that I think is in all of us.
Different narratives. One, we are so divided that we can't get anything done.
Sure.
The other, we are not so divided as everyone would have us think. And I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. I think what we're missing is the spaces to safely explore which of those is true. Because I bet people will find that neither of those positions is fully true. We're going to come away disagreeing about some things, and that's fine. But we're also going to come away having discovered that we have certain things in common. And that's what I think is missing. We're too binary these days.
That's a great way to put it. And these are also things that I like to think about often, thinking about the binary and how nothing really ever is. But other than that, I mean, I think what's really missing is the compassion, the empathy, the respect. I said those words for a reason.
Right.
A lot of the conversations that I think people have is not to understand. So I think that if people, and this is obviously difficult, to set aside your own notions, set aside your passion, and listen to what the other person has to say. And then apply what you have to say, because they're their own person too. And if they're able to do that as well, you could probably have a very productive conversation or dialogue or with a group of people.